Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Finance for Monday, March 20th, 2023 to order. First item on the agenda this evening is to receive, to receive the audit report for fiscal year 2021-22 from Clifton Larson Allen, or CLA. Joining us this evening is Santa Carta, and I'm going to immediately hand the floor over to you to, you'll be sharing your screen with the presentation, which we all have on our board pack, and I'll let you provide the presentation of the audit for last fiscal year.
So I'm trying to share it now. Let me see if I can do this. Can you guys see it?
We can, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so, back. Okay, well, so my name again is Santa Carta from Clifton Larson Allen, principal of the State and Local Government Group. So I prepared a quick presentation. We can go through it, and then I also have the financial statements on another screen of mine, and we can pull that up and answer any questions anyone might have that I didn't address in the presentation. So if you don't see a certain question you have addressed here, we can definitely pull up the CAFR for that, or ACFR, sorry. So I'll start with our legal mumbo jumbo here, I guess. We'll go through that kind of quickly and start with our agenda items. We'll go through the terms of the engagement, executive summary, some financial highlights, single audits, the governance communication memo, and then discuss just briefly upcoming GASB pronouncements that are coming down the pipeline. So in terms of engagement, we're expressing opinion on whether basic financial statements are presented in accordance with GAAP, expressing in relation to opinion on the schedule of expenditures of state and federal financial assistance, expressing opinion on compliance related to major state and federal award programs, provide a report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants, and provide a report on internal control and compliance related to major federal and state award programs. So real quick, executive summary for financial statements. We did issue an unmodified opinion on financial statements, which is the best opinion we can get. We had no findings reported in the report of internal controls over compliance, so no real issues at all with the audit this year. For the state single audit, we have an unmodified opinion also on major state programs, and we had no compliance findings or significant deficiencies in internal control over compliance. The federal single audit is under review. Right now, we are testing 4 programs. It's in our final review, but we are anticipating the same for the federal single audit. Some financial highlights. First, we'll start with the government-wide financial statements. So, for governmental activities, which is all your governmental funds roll up into one, but in addition, you have capital assets and long-term liabilities in here. So, your total assets end of the year at about $230.5 million, up from about $228.5, so up about $2 million. Deferred outflows of resources ended at $15.7 million, up from $11.2 last year. Total liabilities ended at $165.3 million, up from $163.1 million. And we can talk about why after. Deferred inflows of resources went down from $28.4 million to $24.6 million, and you ended the year with a net position of $56.4 million, up from $48.2 million. And that's for your governmental activity, your governmental funds. For business type activities, which is primarily your waste transfer station and marina fund, your assets ended at $1.7 million, liabilities at $201,000, and your net position was fairly consistent with last year's. It was down to $40,000, ended at $1.5 million. any questions on that? Okay. These are just your main governmental funds for the town. The general fund ended the year down about 120K. Ended the year at 21.0 million compared to 21.1 million. Revenues were 116.8, expenditures are 118.7, and then you have a bunch of refunding bonds down below that kind of make it look like a lot, pretty much zero entries. And then you got some transfers out in the fund. So you netted about 1.7 in that in the total other financial sources. So you ended the year at 21.0. Your bonded projects fund ended the year at 7.3 million, down about 4.9, and this is all bonded timing issues. High school construction fund ended at 3.1 million. Miscellaneous special grants fund ended at 80,000, and this is pretty much the ARPA fund, which needs to be presented here. And eventually, when ARPA is over, this will probably go back to the financial statements. Your non-major governmental funds end of the year up about 2.1, and ended about, well, 2.2, ended about 2.0. And in total, your net change in fund balance is 2.9 million. You went from 15.7 to 12.8. Any questions there? General fund. Your fund balance ends at 21.0 million, decrease of 120,000. Your restricted amount is 551,000, which is the volunteer firefighter, I think. Committed is 6.1 million, assigned, which is encumbrances and a couple other items, 1.5 million. And your unassigned is 12.7, which is up, I believe, by about 1 million, unless I did that math incorrectly from last year. Pension and OPEB trust funds. Ooh. So change in that position here ended up down by 11.6 million, which is mainly attributable to the net change in fair value of investments. The investments lost about 14.4 million in the current year. If you start at the top, our contributions are consistent, 7 million, and then your net investment loss was almost 12.9 million in total, giving you a $5.8 million loss. And then take away deductions of 5.7, and you get to 11.6. You went from 83.6 million to about 72 million in that position for all the pension and open trust funds. And here, we'll just outline some of your pension plans and OPEB liability. This seems to be an important question for most boards. So your net pension liability, given that your trust funds lost about 12 million, actually decreased by about 12 million or so. We can take a look after someone's interested in that. So your pension funds are 74.42% funded. Employee plan has liability about 9 million and 78.36% funded. Police has an $8.7 million liability, 73.96% funded. And public schools has a $6.3 million liability and is 66.42% funded. And then our net open liability is end of the year about 12.9 million and is 15.12% funded. And as you can tell, the liability decreased by about 12.5 million by just opening up the trust fund, taking advantage of a better discount rate and all that great stuff. So you gained about $12 million there. So real quick,
Mr. Chair, yeah, I should just point out, at its peak, the pensions were funded around 88%. So the decrease of about 15% is in line with the fall in the market value.
the state single audit, the state, you got awarded about 4.4 million. Your major programs that were tested were County Road, the tiered pilot programs with tax and assessor's office, and municipal grants and aid. And we did have unmodified opinion on major programs and no compliance or internal control findings. Yeah. So in addition to the audit, you did get a governance communication memo. And in the memo, just to outline what's in there, we did adopt GASB 87 in the current year. Some of the significant estimates that we use are for capital assets, useful lives, net pension liability, net OPEB liability, your IBNR for medical claims liability, and your allowance for uncollectible accounts. We did have no disagreements with management. Management did not consult with other accountants, as far as we know. No difficulties were encountered in performing the audit, completion of the audit, and there's no independence issues either. Real quick, talk about some upcoming GASB pronouncements. So for next year, there's 91, 94, 96. 96 is pretty similar to 87, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mary Jane already has a handle on this, and is already maybe looking to use that book for this next year. So the other two won't even apply to you guys, and if 96 is handled, then there should be no real issues for you guys next year. And any questions? And I can bring up the financial statements if anyone wants to go to any pages in the financial statements. Can you guys actually see my financials now?
What do you? We just see the slide with questions.
I know. Okay.
There were two things. Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
There were a couple of things that I guess were either questions or clarifications. In a couple of different locations, you had, so just now in the presentation, you had indicated the unassigned fund balance was 12.7 million.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if I have the same question every year, but on page, well, actually, I don't know what page it is. Let's see. It's actually Roman numeral 3 in the in the letter. So there's a portion there that talks about long-term financial planning, and the first line says the unassigned fund balance in the general fund as of June 30th, 2022 was 12.3. Of budgeted revenues slightly higher than 11.4, but then somewhere else, I think in the body of the report, and now I'm looking for the page again, which I found, page 5 of the report, in the fourth bullet under financial highlights, it indicates 12.1. Is there supposed to, I'm sure there's probably a reasoning for the differential, but could you, see, I'm used to looking up to look at the screen, but I see Mary Jane actually waving her hand. So, Mary Jane, would you like to provide an answer for that?
Well, I'd just like to note that within the audit, we look at that percentage a few different ways.
Okay.
You know, there's the GAAP way of looking at it. There's the way of looking based on expenditures with transfers. We look at it versus revenues. So the number often is different depending on the different ways we look at it within the audit. But they're usually all pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah, and just also like the management discussion and analysis is like one of the last things we do. But sometimes what happens is we're making a journal entry, and it doesn't, we forget to update this management discussion and analysis. That's happened in the past. But when I look at page 5 here, I see 12.7 here. I think that matches general fund. So I'm not where else do you see
You're
it?
talking about dollars versus percent. He's got $12.7 million.
Oh, you're looking at percentage.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at, okay, there is a difference, okay, 12.7 million on the unassigned, and then 12.1 on the percentage. And then there was a different percentage earlier on.
So these, I think it depends, like, I believe this 12.1, Mary Jane, I might be wrong, but that's expenditures via RSI 2.
Yeah, that's the gap on the
Yeah.
gap
Okay.
basis.
And it's 12.3 of budgeted revenues, so that's looking at
Correct.
it a different way, but I'll
Correct.
have to do the clarification on the 12.7, yeah, 12, okay. Yes.
In any event, it's up $1 million.
I also wanted to, I know we just did it, but I don't know, this is for next year, I guess. But I'm assuming that Santo is, and CLA are aware of the change in our unassigned fund balance policy, that we changed the range or hired that range.
Yeah, the audit doesn't, the auditors really don't manage what our policy is. They don't have an opinion on that. We use that more in our financial planning with bonding, and with our credit agencies. The auditors really just report what we did,
Right.
not necessarily whether we're meeting, that policy. The numbers are the numbers in the audit.
On that page 3 though, on the long-term financial planning, after that line about how we did versus last year, it does say the town has made measurable progress in reaching its recommended guideline of 5 to 10% of operating revenues pursuant to the formal fund balance policy. So next year, it should be noted that we are no longer above that range, but in the middle of the range.
Santo, is that the transmittal or the management discussion and analysis? What are they looking at?
I think, is it Roman numeral 3?
Yep. Yes. Roman numeral 3.
This is transmittal letter, sorry.
Yeah, so those are reports that I put together. So, so those are things that I'm putting together, not necessarily the auditors.
Okay.
Yeah, and both, and just so you guys know, both the transmittal letter, which is Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3, and the management discussion and analysis are unaudited. So those 3 pages and pages 5 through 14 are just Mary Jane's numbers.
Okay.
And Mary Jane puts it together.
Yeah, so there's a GASB pronouncement that requires the town's financial director to give an overview of the audit as part of the financial statements. So those are my reports.
Okay.
So I'm reporting about that, not necessarily the audit itself.
I guess my point is, but next year there will be a note about that from you.
Yes,
In the
because
same
that's going to
section.
come from me, but
Right.
the auditors don't necessarily make any judgment on that. So
Okay.
not that Santo doesn't need to know, but he's not going to make a judgment on that. I'm making that judgment.
Right, okay. That's fine. I get it. There's one other thing I just wanted to clarify or maybe just confirm, and that is on the next page, Roman numeral 4. The first paragraph about the high school, I'm hoping my memory doesn't completely elude me, but it said during fiscal year 2016, construction was completed and opened for the start of the 2016-17 school year. I believe that was the 15-16 school year, was it not? And I think that's just more of a clarification for future purposes. It doesn't really affect anything necessarily, except that it does, it is, historical in nature, so.
Yeah, so I missed that, Mike. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. Okay, hold on. My system rolls ahead all the years,
Yep, it's okay.
And so I missed rolling that one back.
Again-
So I will make note of that. That is entirely my fault.
No, it's perfectly, listen, just for historical purposes, I was just going back because I was trying to remember when it opened. I don't know if that has any effect. I'm sure it does not, but for historical purposes, as it's being reported, it'll be corrected and we're fine. But I was
Yeah.
I was actually more concerned about my memory and my recollection than I was about you making it a different fiscal year. So,
Nope.
Okay.
It's just my computer trying to be smarter than me.
all good. Thank you.
I'll make that correction for sure for next year.
No problem. Does anybody else have any questions, issues, concerns about the audit? There's a lot of, for the public who's watching this or will watch it, there's a lot of pages to the audit. So, and this is also a historical, document that we refer to quite often when we're looking at budgets and looking at enrollments and looking at population and a lot of different numbers. It's got a lot of data in here. So,
Will we get hard copies?
what's that, Santo?
I said, it keeps growing too.
And it keeps growing.
It's longer and longer every year.
Yeah.
Will there be any hard copies available?
Yeah,
Yes, I have requested hard copies for the Board of Finance, but because the federal single audit isn't complete yet, we do not have the bound copies yet.
Okay.
I actually ordered those. Did those not come in yet?
Oh, I don't know, maybe they're in my office and I'm in Florida.
Yeah, I actually did order the bound copies for you guys. I thought you should have them by now.
Okay, my staff didn't let me know they were in, but they could be there.
Right, if not, I'll check on that tomorrow, make sure that they're,
Yeah, but to answer the question, we will have bound copies, but the entire audit and all of the letters are on board pack, so you have that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, much of the data goes back, a lot of it goes back 10 years, so it's a good historical snapshot. Anybody have anything else for Santa before we let him go? Okay. Hearing no more questions, Santa Carta, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, CLA, for all your work on the audit, and we look forward to the hard copies, and we'll see you next year.
sounds good, thank you
Most
so much.
likely. Thank you, Santa.
Thanks, Santo.
Okay. Item number 2, public forum. Seeing and hearing none. Item number 3, approve minutes of the regular meeting minutes of February 16th, 2023. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any comments or corrections?
I just have one.
Sure, go ahead.
On item number 6, it's not really a correction, it's just the second paragraph beginning, Ms. Wallace said the natural resource fee increase. The sentence is kind of awkward. Said the natural resource fee increase, said it was for inland. I think it should just remove the second said. Fee increase was for inland wetlands.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I did have a couple. I just got to scroll through. On page 1, second paragraph from the bottom, near the bottom of that paragraph, it says the concern would be going forward what the rate will be on new bonds issued in August, so just adding the word will between rate and be. Page 7, I chuckled at this one. Right in the middle of the page, the paragraph that starts with justification, in the third line it says were needed, that should be portions that were not budgeted. I'm sure some of us would like potions, but, so that'd be portions And actually, that's it. That's all I have. Anybody else? Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain, I wasn't there.
Thank you, Jeff. Minutes, number 2, budget public hearing minutes of March 7th, 2023. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Corrections. I'll just bring mine up. Page 3, second paragraph, third line, portions. Instead of potions. Page 4, third paragraph, Dr. Freeman said they share roles, should be ROLES. Page 7. In the middle of the second paragraph, where it says, based on these proposals, the mill rate would go down from 33.25 to 25.92, which is a 22.04% decrease. If you could just remove the word tax. And then at the very end of that paragraph, individual's property assessment increased during this revaluation.
Where are you?
I'm on page 7. I also wanted to note that there were a couple of what appears to be extra pages at the end.
Yeah. And a pink note.
A pink note, a blank page, but of course, the letter would stay in there
Yeah.
from Larry Rizzolo. Anybody else have any corrections? Amy?
On page 7 where you, let's see, the paragraph right above number 2,
Yes.
it mentions 1.43% tax increase. Do you want tax taken out of that one as well? Is that the same thing as?
Oh, yeah, it's right above, it's,
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, yes, absolutely. Just as long as it's the increase is mill rate, not tax. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, if nothing else, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Item number 4, correspondence. Number 1, standing building committee minutes. We have 2 sets in front of us. February 7th and March 7th. For some reason on the February 7th, I thought we had already received these somehow because they looked familiar, but they weren't posted in our board pack, so I don't know if we got them later or whatever, but we do have 2 sets to comment on. I know that Chairman DeMayo is on.
Oh, good.
So any questions for?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, David.
Not sure what my camera's doing. Oh, sure.
Nice bookcase.
Sorry, I'm here.
It's a
I'm
great
gonna turn
ceiling.
it off. I don't know what you guys are looking at.
It's a great ceiling.
All right. Okay.
I feel like I'm in an interrogation.
We're in a hospital bed. A really nice study.
I had a question on item number 8 regarding the discussion over the Save More. I wondered if it had been resolved yet. You had recommended Mr. Banning going back to Save More to see if they'll share the cost with Silver Petroselli.
This for the Cox. This is for Cox School.
Is this,
Yes, Cox Elementary.
March 7th or
No, February 7th.
February 7th?
Right.
Update on the Cox Elementary HVAC upgrade project. I'm wondering if it had been resolved.
And what it is resolved. Unfortunately, what transpired there is in order to keep the project on track, Silver Petroselli issued a construction change directive, which means the contractor is under obligation to proceed, even though the change order wasn't approved. And based on that, we really had no other legal grounds than to agree to pay the change order. So that's how that was resolved.
As we know, not a great answer, but that is the answer.
Yeah, no, it's, there was no other, I mean, the only other recourse was to take it to legal action where we would rack up attorney's fees, and then the end result is when a construction change directive is issued on a job, it's a legal document to proceed, and with hopes of negotiating a better number on the change order, coming to some terms, and there was no Sagamore dug their heels in, and that was it. They can hang their hat on that. So we have the obligation to, we have the option to incur some attorney's fees for the town and still probably have to pay the same amount on the change order, or to just pay it.
Yeah, not sure I like that answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for David?
I don't, there's a theme in this, in the minutes of the February 7th meeting and also in the March meeting about frustration that's been expressed with working with some of the members of the JCI construction division. Is there any plans to try and remedy that going forward, or are we at the end of the project with JCI?
We are at several inroads with JCI and Sagamore. Change orders on a few projects, and issues with systems that are not working properly at Baldwin that go back to the Phase 1 HVAC project. And at this point, we're in deep correspondence with Town Council Jeff D'Onofrio. I think we've come to a kind of a line in the sand where we need some legal advice, which we're getting from Jeff right now. It's unfortunate situation, but there's too much at stake on this one where we should get legal advice from the Town Council.
Okay, thanks.
I guess I would just say also on the tennis court replacement project that did go out to bid.
It did.
And it was
Good
good
to do in the end of March.
I was happy to see 6 to 7 vendors came out for that. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know there were that many vendors that did tennis courts. It's a good sign. The more vendors, the better the pricing hopefully will be. Anything further? Well, David, I hope you didn't wait too long.
No, it was interesting to listen in for a little bit.
Good. Always learn something, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. All right.
All right.
If
Thank
nothing
you,
further,
Dave.
great. Thank you very much, Dave. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you, folks. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Heading over to pension committee minutes. Minutes and the investment report. Anything on either?
I don't.
Although the investment report, of course, we all know it's a snapshot in time, but it was a good report. It was a good uptick on both the pension and OPEB.
I had one question about on item 8. Well, with the first selectman bringing up to the committee's attention about this new legislative bill up in Hartford with regard to the requirement that municipalities employing police officers, firefighters, provide such officers and firefighters with pensions through the municipal employees retirement system or another system that offers comparable or superior benefits. If there's any update from what was going on with that legislation. I know the first selectman indicated that our trade association was going to be providing testimony up at Hartford to try and lobby against that bill, but I just didn't know if there was any update.
I do not have an update on that as of this time.
Okay.
I'm sure that is something that we can ask
Yeah.
next month. I'm sure there'll be an
Yep.
update, or he'll be able to answer that better, yeah. Any further on pension or OPEB? Okay, item number 5. Review and accept report of expenditures for the Board of Education for February 2023. Linda Trudeau, Dr. Katie Balstracy. Boy, we're getting to see a lot of you this morning.
Aren't you lucky? Right, good evening.
Good evening.
So for the February 2023 financial reports within this fiscal year 2022-23, expenditures for the month of February 2023 were $5,513,604.59. Expenditures and encumbrances through the end of January were 62.1% of the budget, as compared to 62.62% in the prior year.
That's a typo. That was supposed to be February. It says
Oh,
January,
I
it's
said,
supposed to
and
be
I just
February.
read January, didn't I? Sorry,
Sorry about
February.
That was my
That was
fault.
not
I'm catching
okay.
a typo. I'm catching a typo.
Yes, there we go. So in February, we're 62.1% compared to 62.62 in the prior year. Revenue for the month of February 23 was $623,507.61, which includes $591,980 for the excess cost grant, $7,421.61 for Medicaid, $2,000 for e-waste, which is the sale of old technology, and $22,106 for pre-K tuition. You see the categories for budget lines below that. Salaries and employee benefits are coming in for this month slightly lower than the prior year cumulatively. Purchase services, tuition, supplies and materials, and capital are higher than the prior year, and transportation approximates the prior year. Finally, the warrant we are submitting is $2,416,111.80. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have a couple.
Veronica?
It's actually on the warrants.
Okay.
I guess it's a generalized question about the tents at all our schools. How are they holding up? Are we keeping them? What's the plan for them still?
They are holding up. We are using them. We are actually selling one of them back to the company because I believe it was Calvin Leet wasn't using theirs. So we are selling it back, and we're going to get a little bit of money back on that one. But the other ones are holding up, and they are still being
Because
used.
this is like the second or third year, so, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, with all the weather and stuff.
The tents were rated for
Yeah.
severe weather.
Yeah.
So they are meant to hold up, and they seem to be doing quite well.
Yeah. And then I had another question on, now I can't find it. Hang on.
The companies are obviously very interested in getting them back. They can recycle them, or they have the best price, or do they have first right of refusal, or?
I believe it was, when we had sold the first one back, nobody else was interested. We offered it to
Really?
some other places, and the company had said that they would take it back. We looked at some local agencies. We offered it to Park and Rec. We offered it to, but they're quite big.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the company had said that they would take them back.
The Ag Society expressed to me at some point that they were short tents, but
We offered it to them.
then they built permanent buildings,
When we
when they
first,
couldn't get tents.
yeah, when we first started getting, when we got rid of the first ones, so we sold 2 back.
Yeah.
We offered them and they didn't want, they weren't interested in them. They were too big for what they wanted and they turned us down.
Well, they're not portable, are they?
No.
You put them up once, you don't put them up for events.
Right.
I guess this is a question. It jumped out to me, the Eversource bill for Cox Elementary School for $13,713 as compared to the high school for $19,000. When you compare Cox to Lakes and Jones, it's like so much more. I know we had an issue there before.
Yes, and the issue did not get, well, so there was a couple issues. But we found that some of our accounts got switched to a different provider and we were being charged a much higher rate, and it has taken us some time to get that straightened out, which is part of the reason. Cox at one point had a meter that was never being measured. That was the old issue with Cox. And I'm not sure if I think that bill was just 1 month.
Yeah, just one month.
Yeah, just 1 month.
1522.
Yeah.
The fees are different.
Yeah, they are different, yeah.
It's the month of January for Cox and more than December for the high school.
You know. But when you think about the size of the 2 buildings, that's what jumped out to me.
Yeah, the high school one was on the correct rate, Cox was not. So it was a much higher rate. That has been switched off and that should be back to a lower rate the following month. Because the new rate went into effect for February, or the corrected rate went back in for February.
And then my last question was on Flow Tech for calibration. $3,400, $3,440. I wonder what that was. Page, page 7.
I'm not gonna find it. I can't find it. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
Thanks, Linda.
Sure.
Anybody else?
So, with the, two questions. First, $2,000 for e-waste. Do we have anything else, old tech, we can sell?
We had done a big clean out when we started doing some of the stuff, some of the renovations and destruction of 595 for the renovation. We got rid of a lot because everything had just been stored in there. So this is kind of just trying to keep up with it.
Okay.
So as they may do some more after the summer when they refresh equipment,
Okay,
laptops and stuff. So
great.
Can you imagine what it was worth before? Get 2,000 now? Add a couple zeros probably.
And then I saw we got the excess cost grant, and then I noticed on the report that you sent out this afternoon, it's 85%, which seems really high from what it has been historically. Do we expect that to remain constant?
So that will stay for this year.
Okay.
That was the legislation that was passed to try and level it out and fix the funding a little bit. We don't know what's going to happen for next year.
Okay.
They're still working on a solution to better fund the excess cost, but based on the calculation and our rankings, we fell into that 85% reimbursement category, which last year we were at just about 80, so it is definitely better.
I remember when it was lower than that.
Yeah, in the low 70s.
70s.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
That's why it kind of jumped out. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I just want to make sure
Right.
that we're not relying on it
No,
year in, year out.
we first thought that we were going to be in the 88% range, and then got the final and found out we were 85, but that's still much better than what we've had before. And the budget was still built on a lower percentage just because I don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
I did not go an estimate of 85 in the
Right.
budget.
Right. Great.
Since you broached the tuition topic, usually we don't talk about it in detail, but, we get the reports, and then one of the things that I kind of noticed, one of the questions I was going to ask is, okay, so how has this fluctuated and changed over the last few months? And so I had a little bit of time before I came to the meeting tonight, because you had sent this out and I wanted to print it. And then I looked at June and I looked at October, like snapshots, and it was interesting because it went to what we say all the time about the fluctuations, and that you never really know what you're going to get, and you could budget all you want, but there are still fluctuations. And again, I won't go into any deep detail, but when we were in June, we had budgeted 31 private tuitions and 39 public. And the actual student counts at the end of the year, this is as of June 30th, were 3 less than the budgeted amount on the private and 2 less on the public. And we were under, and you'll see where I'm going with this, we were under budget last year by over $500,000, according to the June report. So then I was like, all right, well, let me take a look at October. So it was budgeted 29 private, 40 on the public. So not much change in the budgeted amount. But then when you look at October, there were 5 more students actual in private tuition, which, as we know, can be more costly. And it was 1 under the actual number. And the budget we had to, or have right now for this budget year is 3.2. Well, that's for the total, not, it's actually the budget is, well, it is budgeted 3.2 is the amount. But the under then, or the over-under was 258 or 259 in October. So we were under budget by 259. And then I looked at it in February, so this is the report you just sent us tonight, and there were 2 added private, so now we're 7 over on the budgeted amount, but we're 5 under from October, so we're under. So there's been an increase in private and lowering in the actual amounts. And now there's a delta right now projected of $139,000 less than what was under last. So now we're at 119 projected. Still good that we're under.
Right.
We always want to be under
Right.
budget. But how it fluctuated from and I know we budgeted differently from last year to this year.
Right.
But it was just an interesting, not so much the total dollar costs we know that are associated, but just the number of students, where we had budgeted, or you had budgeted, 29 students private, and right now we're at 36.
Yeah.
But it's flipped the other way. It's 40 and the actual is 31. And that buffer, that under budget, is starting to decrease
shrinking.
as we go, into February and into March.
Right.
So.
In the past month alone, we added 4 new outplacements,
Mhm.
and we removed 1 who is no longer at an outplace facility. So we had just, in this past month, a change of
Right.
that many students.
So it's always fluctuating.
It is.
And so at this point of the year, sometimes we ask, so where do we think the tuition's gonna be? Well, there you go.
That's exactly right.
We've got March, April, May, June left, so 4 more months. And it can cycle a couple more times before we get to the end of the year.
We have the potential for 1 or 2 more outplacements before the end of the year
Mhm.
that we know of at this moment,
Right.
and that can change very quickly.
I just want to, I think it's important for folks listening in, the public outplacements are also includes Educational Center for the Arts,
Right.
VOAG, Sound School, all that kind of stuff. So,
Right. So
so
some of those numbers are right.
Right.
state the obvious, I suppose, not as volatile.
Right,
Right,
right.
Like, we plan ahead, we know who's gotten into, for instance, the ECA program.
Right.
Kids don't kind of leave or enter that program mid-year like they might leave or enter another, but that's right.
Right.
That's right.
So there's a baseline that you can kind of
That's exactly
count
right,
on,
kind of depend on, that's
but-
exactly
but
right.
there's a lot of volatility in a lot of other areas.
Right,
And
that's an excellent
yeah.
point, yeah.
Further questions for the Board of Education? Okay. Hearing no further questions, I will entertain a motion to accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for February 2023 in the amount of $5,513,604.59.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, recusals. Very good. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Item number 6, review and approve report of expenditures for town government for February 2023. Now we look to the screen. Mary Jane. Hello.
Hello,
again.
can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Great.
Awesome. Okay, so we're looking at our revenues to begin with. As of February 28th, we are 66.7% through the year. We have brought in 98.2% of our revenues so far, just almost exactly where we were last year. Not much has changed from the month before with my report. We are still low on Park and Rec, that revenue, so I tried to reach Rick Maynard today, but was unsuccessful. But even though Park and Rec is not necessarily meeting their revenues yet so far this year, we have other departments that are more than making up for it, which happens year to year. So other than that, I don't really have anything more to say unless you have any questions.
Well, I would just say on Parks and Rec, I mean, they were, percentage-wise, they were on the low side last year as well, and they seem to catch up, so.
Yes, they are doing better than last year,
With
correct.
the spring programs and the other offerings and summer camps, right, so there's, I'm sure they'll make up a good
Well,
portion
keep
of
in
it.
mind that those are all part of the program account. This really is just items that the community center generates itself.
Right.
I would imagine with more. There may be more groups using the community center this year than there were last year as we kind of returned back to large gatherings. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but that'd be my guess.
Yeah, there's been an uptick in that, obviously not where it was prior to COVID.
Right. And I noticed that the percentage income from the fire department is up substantially from where it was at this time last year. Is that improved billing practices or increased trips or a combination of the two?
Well, a combination of the two. More than anything, we do have a better handle and a better system for the billing. So we tend not to be in arrears month over month. They've done a phenomenal job at the fire department bringing that around a lot better than we had in the past.
That's great to see.
Anything further on revenue? Expenses.
All right, just get into that. So on the expense side, again, as I said, we are 67.7% through the year, and we have spent 67.6% of our expenses. So bottom line, we are spot on. I did note to the Board of Selectmen this morning, at your next meeting, I am going to bring forward a request to transfer premium credits that we have set aside in our fund balance in to make whole the debt retirement principal and interest accounts. We did budget $85,000 in premium credits, and that's just about what we need exactly in those two accounts. So after your next meeting, those line items will be whole now that all the expenses for the year have already been made. I did note last month that we are behind in our receiving revenue from Madison for the economic development coordinator. Not that they're necessarily behind, I don't mean that they're behind, but it comes in on a quarterly basis. And if you remember, I did note that last fiscal year, Madison overpaid. So this line item will be over budget at the end of the year as well, since the monies in last year's budget fell into undesignated fund balance, and we'll have to bring that back in to cover the difference at that point. Otherwise, most of the line items that are over the 67% are a lot of timing issues, especially, IT, that type of department. We do monitor the fire very closely. They are a little high at the moment. We have one person out on military leave and still 2 people out on workers' comp, so we are trying to manage that replacement salary line as closely as we can. Otherwise, I will take questions.
Questions on expenses? Anything on the warrants? I did, and I think this is more of a reminder. I know this has come up before, but I couldn't for the life of me remember. The United Way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Special Fund Weekly. I saw 2 of them. There might have been more, but there's 2 at the top.
So we have a grant. So the town of Guilford manages the shelter diversion project for the entire shoreline, or not the entire shoreline, but our portion. Many of the towns on the shoreline, there is a grant that covers those expenses from small cities. So United Way manages the shelter diversion program. They bill us, we pay them, and then we have a grant that reimburses the town for those expenses.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Anything further on whether it's special fund or other warrants? And if nothing, then we can just move right on to medical.
So on medical, you'll see February our claims were down slightly from the prior 2 months, but only slightly less than what we anticipate each month. And on the catastrophic claims, we are up to 17 total members over the $75,000 limit and 4 over the $150,000 limit, which is where we start to see our savings. And as you can see, we almost doubled from January to February on the catastrophic claims. Overall, we are projecting a $5.5 million surplus at the end of the year, but as usual, we do anticipate those numbers in the claims going up. It's just a wait and see at this point.
Just projection based on current trend.
Correct.
That's it. Okay. Okay. Anything at all for the town and for Mary Jane? And if not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the report of expenditures of the town government for February 2023 in the amount of $3,831,365.
So, second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Recusals? I'm going to recuse myself from any payments to Antonassi Associates. Item number 7. Consider and take possible action on resolutions for bonding items for consideration at the April 18th, 2023 referendum. So several nights ago, we talked at length about all of these. I guess more of a refresher before we put the motions out there. We have in front of us the bond resolutions that have been crafted for the Board of Education and for the town. On the Board of Education side, just a reminder as I look at what projects are included in this, the amount being sought for authorization is $1,331,260, which include all the bonding questions usually say renovations and improvements at various town schools, but specifically is for the purchase of fixtures and furnishings for 595 New England Road, the replacement of the gym floor at Baldwin Middle School, replacement of tennis courts at Guilford High School, and future project design costs for various town schools. Now, Mary Jane, the one thing that I wanted to ask about, and this to me is actually, sounds like a good thing, that for the same amount of resolution, same amount of authorization, the replacement of the gym floor at Melissa Jones Elementary School is being added in.
I don't
If
remember.
there's any leftover, like, because of
Is-
the flooding that happened.
Well, well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's in this particular resolution, and this is the first time I saw it, and I'm sure the rest of the board. So I was going to ask, and I thought maybe you would be able to shed some light on the fact that the replacement of the gym floor at Melissa Jones Elementary School has been added into this resolution.
Without changing the amount.
And the amount has not changed. So if I'm looking at this thinking, wow, someone added it, and we're not changing the authorization, great. But if, this is the first time we're hearing it, so
There shouldn't be anything added. I can only guess. I forwarded the wrong information to, I'm going to defer to,
There was definitely something, it was before the budget.
okay, but.
oh, you don't,
But it was like, they basically, like, they were gonna replace Baldwin, and if there was any money left over, they would use it to replace what was flooded at Melissa Jones.
there was a project that was, I'm gonna, now I'm gonna look
Can
at the latest.
Can I defer to,
Yeah.
since I'm not in my office, if I could defer to Linda, I mean, I'm gonna have to look up the information, I have to go out back on my computer.
There were some original bonding projects, and there was something that was removed, but I don't remember it being the Melissa Jones gym floor. It was something else that was removed.
What, you mean when we first voted on it?
No, before you voted, there was something that either, I think Dr. Freeman or the board took out of the bonding
That was the elevator.
We took out the
elevator.
At
The elevator at
595.
595.
Right.
That's what it was that got
Yes.
removed. Okay,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
but Melissa Jones never appeared.
No, I don't remember any
Okay.
discussion about Melissa Jones.
Okay. Amy, you might be right that it was
Yeah.
discussed,
I
but,
don't remember if it was in the
But
Board of
not-
Ed
all
notes.
right.
We didn't discuss it at the workshops.
So here's, I guess, there's a little bit of, we need to move this forward, but I'm assuming that we could move this resolution forward with the amendment. Thank you.
If we could defer to Linda and, if we could defer to them for the right wording, I just shut down my work computer, I don't have the data in front of me. I had to have, I thought I sent the exact paperwork to the auditor, to our town council, bond council, but clearly I must have done
Well,
something wrong, so. If there's some words in there that we just take out, it doesn't negate anything else.
Yeah,
it
that's
will
what I was
just
gonna
correct-
say.
Right,
correct
The
that.
dollar amount is correct. What we-
Everything is correct
Yeah.
except for
Except
that
the-
line, so we should be able to approve it, striking out that line as, as amended.
Exactly right.
We don't want to hold it up, that's the whole point, so.
I'm so sorry, could
Go.
you clarify what is the,
Literally, it says, it has everything that we've seen and talked about, but it says the replacement of the gym floor at Baldwin Middle School and the replacement of the gym floor at Melissa Jones Elementary School.
And I'm, just so you folks are aware, I'm looking at the proposal from the workshop that we had earlier, or late last year, the beginning of this year, and the bonding estimate that was in that, which was before the Board of Education adopted the budget, was the Baldwin Middle School gym floor replacement, the elevator modernization at 595, fixtures and furnishings, and A&E for future projects. So there was no mention of Melissa Jones in there.
Meeting in which we voted on the bonding, we removed the elevator.
Right.
And then in a subsequent meeting, we added the money for the tennis courts
Right.
because of
Bids.
the bid issues.
And the inflation and the cost
Correct.
resulting.
So all of that is in there. The only thing wrong is it seems to be an extra line that needs to be removed.
Right.
But-
That's pretty much it. Somehow it
Yes.
got in there, it doesn't matter how, as long as we strike it, then we move forward with it, with this striking of that, that's it. Megan?
And could you just tell me, because I'm not looking at it, what it is we're striking? I'm gonna need to contact bond counsel.
And the replacement of the gym floor
Yeah, we
at
could-
Melissa
We
Jones.
talked about it too, because we talked about the basketball using it often. There was like flooding.
Yeah, when did the flooding happen?
We did talk about it.
At Jones.
And there, I just
Yeah.
can't remember
There was
how
flooding
it
in
got.
Jones, but again, this is,
Right, that really has no bearing. It's
It's not-
only
it's not
the
capital.
items that total that 1.3 million. So if there's an extra line in
wasn't
there,
extra money.
I totally missed that it was there.
So, there was, at one point,
yeah,
Mr. Burnham asked Dr. Freeman if it would be an issue to include in the Baldwin gym floor wording that if there were funds remaining, that they could be used for the Jones gym floor. And Dr. Freeman responded he didn't see any issue with that, and it was supposed to be added to this wording sheet. I don't know if the sheets that came in the budget, because I don't have my budget book with me, if that was in that description. I can try and look for that.
Yeah, because I had the description that originally was sent to me, and then all I did was add the tennis courts. So bottom line is I want it to be correct, so I want the Board of Education to confirm what those line items should be. I don't want to be the one to do that because I don't have any of the data in front of me.
And I'm looking up and confirming, I don't have my budget book in front of me either, but I do not recall the Board of Education voting on anything that noted Melissa Jones.
But
I'd have to-
the issue really is, we need to clarify that, but the dollar amount hasn't changed.
Right.
The dollar amount never changed.
The dollar amount never changed, so I think we can move the resolution forward
Straight line.
and just,
Even if you move it forward,
Do you want to?
asking to correct, asking us to have it corrected.
correct, or clarified.
Right. I just need, I literally just logged out of work computer, and so I can't get into my, my deck. How much more agenda do you have? I could, nothing, yeah.
no, really, it's not much.
All right, if you can bear with me, I'll get back into my work.
We'll circle back.
Yeah, why don't we got the town one
Yeah,
in the
we can
meantime?
go to the-
Yeah, okay. Because that's actually easy and correct. So the bond resolution for the town is $6,102,668. That includes road improvements and facility improvements, including pedestrian improvements on Hubbard Road and the addition of a police vehicle port and storage facility, the purchase of various vehicles, including an ambulance, fire truck, and backhoe, and public safety communications infrastructure upgrades. I'm just providing that detail because when the motion goes in, it's just going to be for the general, what it says up on the top on the resolution. So just wanted to mention what it includes. So with that, I think we can move forward knowing what's in it, right? So I will go ahead and entertain a motion to recommend to the voters a resolution to appropriate a bond authorization of $6,102,668 for road and facility improvements, the purchase of vehicles, and public safety communications infrastructure upgrades.
So moved.
Further discussion?
The
Oh,
only thing
go
I
ahead.
would point out is that the town makes these bond requests on a 2-year basis, not on an annual basis. So if
Yes.
somebody's listening and thinks, wow, that's an awful lot.
Yeah, it's over 2
From the town
years.
side, it's
Yes.
over 2 years.
Very true. And
And
More-
we would also want to note that 3.2 million of it is for a project that we are hoping to receive other funding for.
Right, good point. All right, any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Okay,
Lynn?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I have my original paperwork, and the way I took it off of the paper that I got from the Board of Ed, it said BMS and MJS gym floor replacement.
Okay.
Is
All right,
what
so-
I have.
All right, so
now that you
said that, now Linda.
Okay, so sorry, Mary Jane, that you had to do that. So I found the same sheet. So on the summary page that was provided, it listed just Baldwin, but on the detail sheet that was added to it, that went into more detail, that part said Baldwin and Melissa Jones. The replacement of the gym floors of Baldwin and Melissa Jones School for the same amount. So the summary sheet just had it as listed as Baldwin, but the detail sheet had both.
For the same amount, 1.331.
Yes,
So we should leave the Melissa Jones language in the bond resolution.
yes, please.
And part of my ignorance, the detail sheet gets submitted.
So when I sent them out to you, there was backup pages that provide more details about the projects. So I sent a summary sheet and then the backup pages. And it just, the summary sheet never got
The summary.
updated.
Were those summary sheets though were not part of the budget books, but they were part of the questions you were responding to during the
But I had
time?
sent, yeah, I had sent them
Right.
out,
I do remember receiving them, but I don't think they were in the actual,
they weren't in the original
Budget.
budget book when we sent them out because we didn't have them at the time.
right,
They hadn't,
they were sent later,
yeah, they were sent later.
but well before
Right.
our discussions, okay.
So is the resolution correct or not correct?
Evidently it's correct.
Phew.
Really talk.
Sorry for the confusion.
Sorry,
What's that?
Mary Jane. I said it's good, we just didn't really talk about it.
Right.
And again, Baldwin is the focus, and if
That's
there's
right.
anything left
This is
over
If,
because of the damage
There are.
sustained with the flooding.
At least if we have both schools listed, we are able to use the money for both schools if needed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the important part, is that if the school, as long as it's mentioned, then funds can go towards that if there's anything left over.
Right.
And it's the same amount. Now, there would be an issue if it was all of a sudden a different amount that we
Right.
were talking about the other night, but it's the same exact amount. But now we're just adding a project.
Well, it was always there.
I apologize for any blethering that I did during that, because that one.
Technically, it was there, we just didn't know.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as it was in the
Okay.
backup sheets.
I
and
feel
we're-
better.
we're-
I
we're-
feel better.
And we're okay with it.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine with it. Okay.
Doesn't move the
It doesn't move the needle on the numbers.
Yeah.
It actually
The
adds
number-
opportunity to
Adds flexibility.
Right.
renovate and improve a school, so.
Yep.
Okay, so
Thank you.
with that, I will entertain a motion to recommend to the voters a resolution to appropriate a bond authorization of $1,331,260 for renovations and improvements to various town schools and Board of Education facilities, the replacement of the tennis courts at Guilford High School, and the replacement of the tennis courts at Guilford High School.
Did you say the gym floor at Guilford High School?
No,
Or
the
No.
tennis courts.
Okay.
I did say that, right? The replacement of the tennis courts at Guilford High School, and future project design costs for various town schools.
I know we talked about the tennis courts at the high school, and I think we're all in
Yeah.
favor of
Yeah.
that. so.
Yeah.
Okay, so could someone put that in the form of a motion? Which I just did.
So moved.
Second.
Do we want to discuss this any further?
No.
I think we got it. I think we got it, right? All All right. All,
I think I just added 10 years to my life there.
well, before it adds another 10, all in favor?
For lost 10
Aye.
years, I should say.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving forward. Thank you, Mary Jane. Thank you, Linda.
You can close now, Mary Jane.
Yeah.
No, don't.
Well, the next item on the agenda is number 8, discuss and take possible action on the appointment of an auditor for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Do we have any, we received the summary, we see the numbers, we're in year 4. Does anybody have any issues with Clifton Larson Allen and the work that they're doing? We're in year
Mr.
4.
Chairman,
We're
if
in
I
year,
may?
we're in year 4 of their 5-year contract. So yes,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may speak?
please.
I received a call late this afternoon from Santo because they noticed that this item was on our agenda. Now, our charter requires us to appoint our auditor 90 days before the end of the fiscal year, so here we are.
Right.
They are requesting a change in the dollar amount for the next 2 years of their contract due to issues that they are having, with inflation. They have had to increase the amount that they're paying their staff. I have been trying to reach Peter Barrett ever since we got on this meeting to talk to him about it, but he has not returned any of my phone messages or emails. I've reread the RFP while the Board of Ed was, when the Board of Ed was giving their report. We do award this on a year-by-year basis. It gives the town a lot of discretion in what it does. I couldn't find anywhere in there where the CLA could come back and change their amounts. But I also didn't find anything where it said they couldn't. So I know you have the numbers in front of you. They're requesting in place of what you have in front of you, fiscal year 2023, $73,000, and fiscal year 24, $77,000. An increase from what we have in our RFP. To be honest, I'm not sure, how to move forward with that, other than we have an RFP and we have pricing, and we can appoint them or not, and then deal with the pricing later. Like I said, I tried to reach Peter Barrett so we could have more clarification. I did tell Santo today, we've already put our budgets through with the amount that is on that piece of paper you have in front of you. That is what we budgeted, that's what we were expecting. But I'm not an attorney, and I'm afraid to give any advice on this at this point unless some attorney at the table can help me.
Do we, in the charter, we have to do it 90 days before the end of the fiscal year, but can it be within 90 days? Can we table this until we get advice, do you think? As long as we do it before June 30th?
No, it says 90 days prior to the end of the year, so you have until the end of this month.
I mean, for what it's worth, we just went through the same thing, Mary Jane, with our auditor, and we just said, sorry, but this is what you quoted, and
Right.
they're just doing it for that amount.
Oh, absolutely, I don't have a problem with that either. I'm just presenting to you all of the data that I have.
So I don't know if that will work with them.
Listen,
but it works with
I
us.
agree. I get the fact that, we've talked about it for the last month, if not more than that, about, yes, we understand there's increases. But they actually built an increase in every 5 year, every year over 5 years.
That's true.
They put that number in. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we didn't expect that were gonna happen. And, coming to us this afternoon with the audit, when we've already done our budgets, I am not at all in favor of increasing it. I understand their pain, we all do. But at the same time, we've already kind of gone through a process that I'm not willing to change it at this point.
Not to mention that there were other people or organizations that were
less.
submitting bids for this that
That
you know,
did have
came in
lesser numbers.
with lower numbers.
I agree with Mr. Ailes. I mean, they weren't, it was no secret that we were working on our budget. And for them to come in after the fact to ask for 11.6 and 15% rises is, at this late date with 10 days to go to appoint somebody is I don't know, it borders on unprofessional. I'm sorry for their aggravation, but I think they also tell us that Guilford, Mary Jane, Ms. Malavasi, are the easiest people to work with going. So they should be reducing their fees.
There you go.
I don't know, Mary Jane. Just having just gone through this, I feel like they're gonna ask, and if you just say no, then they're just gonna say okay. I mean, that's what happened with our auditors.
That's what I would. That's how I would recommend this. I would recommend entertain a motion at the number that they provided us for year 4.
Yeah.
And I think
that's the
I
number.
totally agree, I just had to bring it forward to you, that's
No,
all.
of course, you had to, and we appreciate that, of course.
But I also will add that that's the risk they took by bidding on a 5-year contract. I mean, anything can happen over 5 years, you know?
Right.
If the last 3 years have taught us anything.
I just can't believe they didn't see this coming before now.
Oh, they did.
Well, the timing is unfortunate.
I'll move to appoint Clifton Larson Allen LLP for the 23 auditors fiscal year ending 6/30/23 in the amount of $65,400 as quoted.
For year 4, yes.
Yes, for year 4.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, committee reports, building permits. Anything in building permits? Item number 10, old business. There was one item under old business that we were, I think, seeking possibly a response on, but our first selectman isn't here. It's about the town clerk's office and receipt of payments and how the forms of payment. I know it was brought up, Veronica.
Yeah.
I think you brought it up, but Mary Jane, I don't know if you have anything for that. We could just.
He did, in fact, we have been speaking to the town clerk's office, and I don't exactly know what happened. It was a discussion right before I left for vacation, so I'm afraid I don't know, but we gonna do everything we can to make that happen.
Okay.
But I don't have any specifics right now.
Okay, that's fine. We can bring it up next month under old business. Anything else under old business?
It's not old, but relevant to what Jeff said before.
Yeah.
The bill is Senate Bill 935. It had a hearing on February 10th, but it hasn't been voted out of committee, so it may not do anything this session, yeah.
That's the one with the
That's the one
with the
for
pension.
retirement, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, if nothing else under old business, item 11 is new business. Yes. I have something, but please go first.
I was wondering how my colleagues on this board felt about asking the town to establish email addresses for each of us. I get concerned more and more with FOI requests, and since they list my personal email address, I think it would be, for me, I think I would like a town email address so that taxpayers could reach out to me directly through the town website. So I'm throwing that out for discussion on how my other colleagues feel.
I did ask about that when I first joined the board, and they said it was too expensive. It cost the town more money per email address.
Oh, because it's in a license?
Yeah. So it was never available.
Can we find out about it?
I think it bears investigation.
It does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
absolutely
I
does.
just like to add that
Please.
since that question was asked, we have changed our email addresses. And, we have a new platform. I will check with my IT staff on that and Matt as well, and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. I do remember that came up, Bob, it might have been when you first joined the board, we brought that up about email addresses. Board of Education has them, Board of Selectmen has them, and we didn't, and I guess that probably was the reason. I don't remember at the time, but your memory's evidently maybe better than mine.
Another it's like another $3.50 a month per person.
But yes, I know, we had actually, we had talked about this, and I had some concerns because I actually have some emails routed to work, and then that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because then the entire work server gets FOI'd. So I try to take everything and push it to my personal, but sometimes I do get slips that go to my business. So having something that is simply for us through the town, I think, would be prudent. Mary Jane, thank you for checking into that for us. Appreciate it. Okay, mine wasn't nearly as, new. It's actually old business, but it's new for our regular meeting. It's a reminder of what's going on in April. I just wanted to throw out the reminder that our annual budget meeting is going to be on Tuesday, April 4th, in person at 7:30 here at the Community Center. The budget referendum will be held on Tuesday, April 18th, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at all polling locations. And just reminding everyone to put those dates in your calendar and exercise your right to vote. Does anybody else have anything under new business? Item number 12, public forum. That was packed. I guess not. And with that,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy your vacation, Mary Jane.